What's up, guys? Welcome to the Upper Left Show with Austin and Cassandra. I'm super excited today. We have one of my favorite people in the real estate space, Patricia Young, out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And Texas has been a hotbed of information, and there have been a lot of eyes on Texas this last year between everything from the crazy price increases to Wall Street coming in and doing what it's done. And now everyone's got their eye on Texas with what's going to happen in the future with all the rush that has came about. So we're going to dive in that today. How you doing today, Cassandra?
Doing well, Austin. Just we had some snow yesterday. We're not as lucky as you, but ours melted off. So rocking and a rolling. And Patricia, girl, tell us about yourself. Tell us about Dallas. What's up?
Well, I am in obviously the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I have been in real estate, my God, almost 19 years. I can't believe it's been that long. I had gotten into real estate because part of the reason was every weekend I used to drag Tim. Let's go look at houses. Let's go look at houses. So finally, like everybody used to say, why don't you get your real estate license? You'd be so good at it. I'm thinking, please, work straight commission. You'd be freaking kidding. Meanwhile, I'm working marketing at a gym making like, I don't know, like 50, 45, 50,000, right? So, but perception. Mm-hmm. So after probably about 8 months of that, I decided, my father-in-law was like, you need to get your license. I'll fund you. I'll fund you for a year. I'll do whatever. I mean, like I said, I wasn't making that much. He's like, I'll fund you whatever you need. And we said, we'll pay him back. So I said, all right, what do I get to? So I got my license within the first 2 weeks of my license. I had a lease client and a buy client. And I had gotten an award, and I just, and what I did was I really loved it. And, you have to study the market. You have to understand. Mm-hmm. So I shadowed agents. I went to the top agents. And I said, hey, would it be okay if I shadow you? To learn, can I do your open houses? So they were like, yeah, because, they didn't want to do it. So basically how I built my entire business is from open houses, which was great because I was like, it was easy. People came to you, because at that time you didn't have any listings. So, you tried to lead gen, but, you made yourself known that everybody, that you were in real estate, you sent out the cards, you called everybody, and then you started creating the database. So yeah, my whole beginning was open houses, and that's how I created. And now about 90% of my business now is past client and agent to agent referral at this point. And I'm by myself. I did get licensed in Charlotte, North Carolina. I do have a partner there. So I just got my license like a year and a half ago. So basically, I do probably about 35 a year myself. I do have a transaction coordinator, and I tried the buyer's agent about 8 months ago, and that didn't really work. So I tried to hire the right. I hired slow, fired quick, because it just wasn't, it wasn't the right thing.
8 months ago, it was still a little bit of a sticky market, and I know how hard it was for a while to be a buyer's agent there. Less than
our market was
about
crazy.
2 years.
Yeah, it was 2 years. It was right out. I never forget when we put that first house up right before COVID, and everybody was like, all of a sudden, like my phone was going crazy. And I'm like, and the house was under 400. And I'm like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden we had like 9 showings, like in a day and a half. I'm like, okay, something's up, because we were looking at the market, but we didn't know what we were in for.
Yeah.
And then that was the first house, and we had multiple offers. She's like, what's happening? No inspection, no this. And I was like, oh my God, this is cool. On the buy side, I wouldn't have done it like that, but I was like, okay, it's the listing agent. My seller was okay with it. So yeah, so we just came out of that. And I got to tell you, I'm not sure what this market is, but I kind of prefer this better. A little bit more even, so to say.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's also called the fake market right now, but you really need to be looking at it. And it's very hard to price stuff right now. If you're a seasoned agent, you know what you're doing, because you look back at comps, and that market changed right at the end of June, July 1st, and right after July 4th, that market dropped. I can tell you today, I know, because when you're doing it long enough, you look at the market, and you're like, something's up.
And I think we saw something like 20%. How much
20%.
You guys lost?
It went quick. I mean, we didn't gradual. We went. That's what's so funny about it. So people, like, I had a house on the market that had gone under contract, And because of a crap agent, even after all the vetting we did, it fell out 3 days before closing. Well, we ended up taking it off the market. We're going to put it back on in February. I mean, everything dropped. So I've got some really interesting numbers, to show. So right now, it still depends on area, and it still depends on the house. You could still get a multiple offer, but not like we were seeing. And if you are, that doesn't mean they're over ask price.
Right.
You might be, multiple offer with like 5,000-10,000 off, you know what I mean? Or they're all at ask price.
Now, Patricia, in there, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. You said as you were getting into real estate, I think, and most of our audience is not in real estate on this particular show. So you said you got into real estate and you started doing a lot of open houses for people. Mm-hmm. And before we get into the market data, I think this is something I've been asked about probably 10 times in the last year, why agents aren't doing their own open houses. So can you kind of explain to like the everyday person why you're doing an open house versus the agent that was listing their property?
Usually like if I do my own listings, that first weekend I do my own because I want to, if I can sell the house, that'd be great. But it's not only that, I'm looking for more listings and I want to look, I want to see what type of traffic, because I feel like that open house, especially now with the market changing, it's going to really tell me what's going to happen with this listing. That's what I think. So that first weekend I think is important to mainly see, be able to talk to the neighbors, because it is going to be neighbors, which are sometimes good because they'll tell you everything you want to know. And then to feel it out. And like I said, and to me, it's just easier to open house because like I said, the people come to you. So I think it's important to know the market and feel it out that way.
This is definitely something Patricia and I have talked about because I am going to be teaching a class for our brokerage here on open houses here shortly. And I also, like Patricia, started most of my business in the Portland, Vancouver market with open houses. And it's, there's a whole slew of reasons why you do it. Sometimes the seller wants you to do it. They expect you to do it. Other times, you do it because you want to get more eyes on the house. And also as a new broker, it's a great way to just meet people, to figure out what price point market you want to work in and what neighborhoods you want to work in. And you start learning them. And that's how you become the knowledge broker. And so obviously Patricia's been very successful at doing that because she's been in the business 18 years and she's, mostly referral and agent to agent. So that's really awesome, Patricia.
Yeah.
And that's just how you build it. It's relationship, so.
And tell me about this phrase you use, the fake market. Will you elaborate on that for us?
Well, like I said, right now we're kind of in that middle because we're coming out. So usually when you pull the comps, right, you're pulling sometimes back from July, June, and people are, so when you go on these listing appointments, they're like, oh, well, we can list it at 660. I'm like, no, you can't, not anymore. And I know people use RPR. Sometimes I'm not a really big RPR person. For those who do, that's great. But like, I want to pull. So I need to look at traffic. Like I look at a lot of the, we use showing time, and we're able to pull the reports of showings for any area, any subdivision. You can pull by street, price point, date, from 6 months down to a week. So I'm doing a lot of that because I want to see where the buyers are. So before I go on that listing appointment, I always bring them like, okay, I have comps, but I want to show you what's more important is how many people are going to get into this house and why it's so important to price what we price.
Right.
So those showing reports have been everything.
Because ultimately we comp houses, but the market tells us where the house should be.
Yes, especially now. And that's why I think that showing report is extremely important right now, even sometimes more than that, because it's like, okay, well, here it is. And these people were priced here. Then you see where they put the price reduction. So it's not only just the numbers itself, but the price reductions, how long, usually they would always say, you list the house, before crazy. You list the house, you wait 2 weeks. If you have, 8 to 10 showings, you don't have an offer, you're overpriced, or you're above the, that 10%. It's different now because now the market's different because now we have higher interest rates. And now, so the buyers changed, now you got to, these buyers, when you go in, you say, listen, instead of a price reduction, why don't we offer, a 2-1 buy down or 2-3 buy, whatever it is, and you have to explain that. So it's a completely different strategy now than it was. It's not just here's what your house can sell for. It's
you have to work as a real estate agent now.
Imagine that.
Would you recommend?
Even when the market was like that, you still were pulling numbers. People are like, oh, let's just pull it here. And I'm like, let's just look at some numbers. Okay. Let's see where we are, to make sure, because it sometimes says like, maybe we can get more, and as that market went on, that market got nuts and people were like, well, we could list at 660. No, you can list at 690 and I'll bet you we'll get 740. So it's
the
always
fake market was great.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You're saying if you're a homeowner and you're getting ready to move and you're going to be meeting with a real estate agent, you recommend not only looking at the past sales, but also having that real estate agent bring a record of how the neighborhood is doing on showings versus purchases as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually a pretty easy thing to do. I think any real estate broker can do that. So that's not too terrible. Now, before we dive too much into the meat and potatoes, I think there is a lot of value in knowing where you're going, but to know where you are, you have to know where you started. So around COVID, when COVID kind of hit, we saw a huge increase, at least from the forefront of the media, in Texas just becoming this huge migration of people flooding into the area. So can you kind of give us a little bit of background on what you guys actually experienced? Was it actually as big of a rush as the media made it out to be? How did it affect your market? How did it affect your economy? And where is it at now?
I mean, it really, it started a little bit before COVID. People always said let's take new builds, for example. Everybody thought we're so short on new builds, even when the market got crazy. But see, we were already short because remember, when the market really crashed, and really got slow, these builders stopped building. They were doing some specs, they would do, if they had 4 floor plans, they might do 4, but that was it. So going into COVID and then having the market go crazy, they were already behind. They were already, we didn't have, because normally if you can't find a regular, house pre-sale, you go to a builder and you're like, great, I just have to babysit it, but they handle everything and this is great. When COVID happened and then the rush of California came in, when people said, did you really get that many people in almost everybody was from California. I mean, then I started seeing actually a lot of people from Seattle because I had 4 clients from Seattle, but California was definitely our biggest, which, coming here, why I think the market got so like crazy was, let's say the California buyer had an $800,000 budget, right? They could go into the $700,000 price range and say, hey, I'll offer you 810 and we'll pay cash. So they wiped out entire buyer pools. So we already had short inventory, but then you had these buyers that had this massive amount of cash because the other buyer had from Seattle came in and said to me, I've got $150,000 to play with. Who has $150,000 to play with in a house? In other words, to go up, whatever we have to do. I'm like, holy crap, right? So
that put her in Portland.
Yeah, that put everybody into a different buyer pool, which made not even the first time home buyer. I mean, those people were out, but just the regular, Joe Blow buyer couldn't buy a house because, I mean, being an agent, I don't know about you, I had an ethical, issue with this market. I really had a hard time with people paying $100,000 over for a house.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I understand the market showed and the numbers are still there. We're not, our market was slow, but we won't see this huge crash, like we did in 2005. But the thing is still, that's a lot of money. What if you have to turn around in 1 year and sell that house? Nothing's given,
No.
And then they're going to be in a short sale.
Yep.
So, but it really did change the economy. And it was funny because in some ways, like the places around like Frisco, like Collin County, the Frisco, the McKinneys, the Planos, the ones everybody always hears about. I mean, everything did well over there. Toyota had opened over there. It seemed like every business was going over there. So everybody wanted to live over there. There's an area called we call it the $1 billion mile. We've got the Cowboys facility is over there. We've got a guy from Dubai who's built 2 high rises. It's the first high rises. We've got 2 big outdoor shopping centers. All that stuff thrived, because all these people were here. And, California people are normally used to being outside a lot. Well, our weather is nothing compared to Texas weather. I tell people, you're going to be hot. Just to let you know, I go, you guys sweat when it's 85, 90 degrees, and you have a heat wave. I'm like, you better get ready for like 120, degree weather. But I mean, talking to local business owners, because I do a lot of videos and stuff, the businesses did better. They thrived. So it helped the economy out. Now we're seeing this leveling. Now it's like all the buyers now seem to be from the local area. I'm not seeing as much fluctuation as we did in those 2 years. I was like, is anybody left in California? I mean, honestly, I mean, everybody I talked to, other agents I talked to, I live in a master plan community, and everybody, we went in to look at a house before the market got crazy. We thought about doing a new build. And we were talking to the salesperson. They said, yeah, we have a house, we have a house here in Lantana. We'd have to sell it. They came up and go, how much is it? How big is it? We'll look at it. We'll take it. I mean, this is what was happening. I said, Tim goes, great, but where are we going to go? Which then led to, well, maybe we'll rent, which then rent went up 15 to 18%. Rent's insane right now. So it did a lot good for the economy, but it's going to be interesting to see how all this pans, because we still have businesses moving here. I mean, obviously, because we don't have state income tax, but we do have high property tax. Our property taxes are high.
We do have
it depends on what area you're in.
What's your average rent there right now?
Average rent, I pulled, I just did an overall, and I did newer because people want newer rents. So for a house that's between 1,600 and say 2,800, because a family normally will rent, it's a little broad, but max is 4,950, average is 2,947, and mid is 2,895. And they're getting, the max is getting 106% of list price, rent price.
So what is in the typical market that, so you looked at that rent price wise, what is that, if that person wanted to purchase that house, what would that sale price be on that house?
Those houses, the one that's high, the 49, that's a house in the high 6. That's a high 6 rent. So
your rents actually are very high.
They're high. Yeah. Our rent is high. So, right now during the crazy, I had somebody right now that's basically total rent is paying about $49,000 for the year. And the house is in a really nice community. It would sell, high 5, low 6. And but I'm thinking, God, and then she had to put up, but here's the other thing with rent when it was crazy. She had to put up 5 months in order to get it because there were 6 applications on it. So she paid cash for 5 months up front. That was
so you guys don't have any sort of rules around application or anything like that either then?
No, they can do it. I mean, they do the background checks and all that, because I've got 2 for rent right now. Well, 1 for not rented, the other one, but they can rent
sounds like
that.
A free for all to me.
It was a free for all. And, and I thought, my only issue is paying that much money up front. They've got you. You know what I mean? With if any problems, anything happen, they have that chunk of money. Yeah. At least if you have a year, but you're paying months, you're paying every month, but paying that much money up front. But that's what you had to do to even get into a rental. Wow. So,
were people coming and renting and then purchasing?
They're still in rent. It'll be interesting. A couple of them did rent. A couple of them went back. Some of them didn't know if they were going to like it here. That was the other thing. The companies that moved here, people don't know if they're going to like Texas. Some people, we had a large population from California. They may live here a year and go, oh God, no, I don't want to live here. So out of the people I rented, there were 4. I don't do a lot of rental, but there were 4, and 3 moved back. And 1 just went into another rent because they still don't know what area yet. Because our Metroplex is so big. So, if these companies are in Plano, which is a high area, a lot of them can't afford to live there. So they have to drive. And then here's our traffic problem. It takes me to get into the heart of Dallas from Flower Mound area. It's 50 minutes without traffic. You put traffic on that, it's an hour and a half, easy. Hour 45, depending on what happens. You have bad weather, no one can drive here. So that's
insane. People. That is insane. Because I can drive all the way across the Portland Metro in an hour. From east to west, I can drive all the way.
And to tell you, all right, so I looked this up because I wanted to see what the last population, let me see, where's it? Last population of 2021 for Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex. Okay, there were 7.76 million people. Okay, and Dallas Metroplex, to give some context to this, is 9,286 square miles.
Okay, so where are we looking at, north to south, east to west? Kind of what is
north, east to west, like across. So like what people like to put it in like, okay, so it's broken up. Like we always say, like when people say Dallas, Fort Worth, people say Dallas, call me up. I'm like, well, where are you going to work? Because I want to like put some, context to it. Because when you say Dallas, people don't know area. You know what I mean? So let me see. I broke it up.
When you picked me up, while you're looking for that, while you picked me up from the Dallas airport, like I've been to Dallas before and I've flown in and out of DFW before, but I actually like have never really paid attention when I was in the car. I paid attention when you picked me up.
Yeah.
And I thought we would never leave Dallas. Like I was like, it just keeps going. It just keeps going. And like it was huge. So Dallas Fort Worth is you said something earlier when we were talking too, something about 7 counties.
Yeah, so it's broken up into 2, what they call metropolitan divisions, is what they call it. So you've got Fort Worth, Arlington, which includes, these are usually the areas people don't know about, would be like Hood, Johnson, Parker, Somerville, Tarrant is, and then Wise County. And then the biggest, the popular one where all the, companies go is the Dallas, Plano, Irving Metroplex area, which includes Collin, Dallas, Denton, Ellis, Hunt, Kaufman, and Rockwall. So those are the main, like when people usually like, they'll go like, I live in Denton. So Denton has the cheapest tax rate. So we have like our tax rate here is only like 2.7. But like if you're in Collin County out towards Plano, some of those can be like 2.9. If you go out towards Tarrant County, they can be 3.1. It's a lot of money on taxes because to give you like our house is 2860 square feet and our taxes are about 8,900 and they've gone as high as 300 a year. So that tells you
double what I pay and our houses have got to be close to the same size.
No,
so we have no land. There's no land. Back to a green belt, which is fake, but it looks good. But we have that's not land. If you want to start adding land, like I live border Argyle, and Argyle, you're talking land could go anywhere for like $250 a square foot.
Isn't a lot of those taxes driven by schools as well?
Yes.
That could have a huge impact on that.
Yeah, but the problem with schools, well, I mean, here they rate schools based on what's called a tax test, which is school testing. And some of the schools don't have the best ratings. Like I always tell, go when people are moving here, I'm like, listen, go on greatschools.org. You can do it by school. You can do it by county. You can do it by however you want, because obviously we can't steer. But normally like the high schools are big. They're populated, right? I mean, they have huge football stadiums. I mean, you would think you're watching a pro football. I mean, that's how big these schools are. So high schools, if you can get a high school rated, the highest rating is a 10. So if you can get a high school between a 7 and a 9, that's good. The elementary schools are the ones that are most important in the middle schools. You want a 7 to a 9. Some areas are like a 3 and a 4. That's why private school here has gotten so expensive. And there are wait lists that are almost 7 years long to get into a private school here, depending on what school it is and what county it's in. It's really changed over the last, if I look at how it's changed just from the time I got into real estate, but if I look how it's changed over the last 4 years, it's crazy because we have such a huge population. So you're trying to jam all these people in. And you're trying to find houses and you're trying to, so when the market went crazy, I mean, people were buying houses that were like this size, my size, and paying like almost $600,000 for this house. We paid like just a 3. I mean, that's $300,000 in 4 years.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And so you saw those crazy appreciations, but then now you've also seen like a crazy, basically correction in the market. So
a big correction. It's big. I had polled, this is very interesting. Just to know, to give you an idea. So in the last, because how on our Netris, we can poll like for the last week, 3 days, 7 days, stuff like that. And just to let you know, our Netris, which is our MLS, the coverage exceeds 48,000 square miles in North Texas, and we have 40,000 subscribers to it. So it's big. Mm-hmm. And just to let you know, so in the last 7 days, and I always look at this because it always makes me and plus it is December, but in the last 7 days, new listings, there were 2,061. Back on the market, we had 554. This is what's interesting. Price decreases were 3,357 price decreases in 7 days. Price increase, you always have a couple of those, 240. Active option, which is when it goes under contract and they're in their inspection period, we had 972. Active contingent means they probably have a house to sell, 230. We have 1,686 that are pending, meaning they're out of their inspection periods. Closed, 2,226. Expired, which we were seeing no expireds. We had 747 in the last 7 days. Canceled, 685, and withdrawn, 68, and coming soon, 131.
That's a huge correction comparative to what used to be going on.
It is. And the other thing I was telling Cass, which I thought was funny, which showings, how many are getting. So basically what I pulled was I did a 359 or more because our average price is about 460. I did single family. I did 4 bedrooms or more because that's what normally people are looking for because still people work from home. They need an office. I did all construction types, meaning resale and new construction. And I did 2,000 to 3,000 square feet, all years built. So right now in the month of November, there were 4.4 showings per listing. Okay. And if we go back to November of 2021, we had 11.2. That's in a year. So the buyers, we're seeing a major correction where the buyers we just don't have a lot of buyers right now and that has to do with the interest rates, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, when interest rates go up, I mean, for people that don't understand like the rates and the numbers and haven't heard anyone say this before, every time an interest rate goes up 1%, a buyer loses 9% of their buying power. So if you have a $400,000 house, how much are you going to, like, if you're approved for 400,000, how much are you going to lose on your approval when your interest rate goes up 1%?
Right.
You know, you're down to like 360,000 for your approval. And that's tough because what we've been seeing these last, 3 years is we're seeing, 10%, 20% appreciation. So you're not only the last 6 months is that the interest rates have been creating buyers going like this. And we've been watching the appreciation start to do this as well and like correct back to be with the interest rates. And it's been hard and they've come down a little bit, but people are still, I did a number the other day. It was a $500,000, was it $550,000 house. And if you did 5% down, which is pretty much like the average of what actually people put down on their home. It's not 20, it's 5. Mm-hmm. And with all the taxes and everything here in Camas, Washington, your payment per month was $3,900. $3,900, and my house fits that same bill, and my mortgage is like 23.
That's crazy.
That's the difference in the interest rate.
That's insane. Well, in last year at this time, okay, so right now for the entire MLS, we have 5,000 in month of November, 5,455 houses on the market. That's up 170%. Last year at this time, we had 2,015.
That's all. Seriously, for how big your market is, you only had 2,000 some houses on the market.
Yes, that's why we were in such a frenzy. And when I tell you frenzy, it was frenzy. It never stopped. And it's funny looking at comps now and looking at houses. You can see it because June you had a multiple offer and it went up 30. You could see like April, May was still 50, 60 over ask. Then June rolled around and you saw about 30. And then by the end of June, beginning of July, you weren't seeing that anymore. You were then right away, you saw a house would go up and it'd be on the market 4 days, 5 days, 8 days, 10 days. I'm like, oh yeah, this is good. Come on, buyers, come back.
Well, and I just want to put this into context for like some of what Patricia's saying. So Dallas is like probably about 7 times larger than Portland. We'll just say that. Okay. Portland had, well, when you were saying you had 2,000 houses on the market, so did Portland. So Portland had way more inventory than Dallas did. And that's insane with Dallas being 7 times higher. So I can only imagine especially with your price point, average and median price point being lower than ours, you're getting these people in droves from other places like high markets like Seattle and the Bay Area and LA coming in and going, oh, I have $1 million. You're telling me I could buy 2 houses, or I can buy like this house that's like 4 times the size of the one I just sold?
Yep.
Like,
Well, that's why they would wipe out an entire buyer pool. They're like, well, screw it. We like this house in 700. We'll just offer 8. We've got it. You know, we sold our house for $1 million. That we can go in, do whatever we want. We'll take it.
Yeah.
So you were dealing with less inventory plus that issue, which affected everything. So some buyers just got out of the market because they just, I mean, who's got that extra money? You know, and then they were waiving appraisal. They were waiving inspection. They were, I mean, I was like, oh my God, people.
So
yeah.
we talked, so obviously the market's correcting itself a little bit. And then kind of the other part of our show, and I feel like this might be a good transition point if Austin agrees, if he doesn't have anything else to interject. We are, the other part of what we were talking about was how these institutional investors. So for a lot of the people that don't know, we've been dealing a lot with iBuyers the last probably 3 years, you know, Open Door, Zillow, Redfin, which by the way, they've pretty much all stopped buying because their numbers are wrong. But now homeowners, so as real estate agents, we were dealing with those, but now homeowners are having to deal with institutional investors like hedge funds and Wall Street, because the market took a downturn so fast that these builders in your market were like, what do? I have all these houses. So they started going to large money investors to buy up these areas. So how is that affecting your rent price? Is that affecting your home price as well, you think?
I don't know if it affected the rent price because rent's gone up all over. I know of 2 developments, and they said the biggest ones, like one, you know, Rockwall County, you know, Dallas County. I know of one that's out in McKinney. I drove through it. It's nice, you know, and like you said, I think the builders, what happened was we didn't have enough building. Then they built, and now they overbuilt. And now we have a lot of, you know, now we have houses that are sitting, you know, now the builder has come back with all the, you know, incentives.
Well, because before the house was even built, as soon as they put the sign in the front yard, there was 700 people waiting to purchase one of those houses.
Oh, there was a bidding war on new builds. I mean, they called you, there was a lottery.
Yeah.
I mean, I would tell people, I'm like, I want you to think, and this was the issue that I was worried about, were people, because it was taking 18 months to build. I beg people, they can't lock you. These interest rates are going to go up. What if? Because if you look at how many houses now that, you know, you were hearing this all over the news about how many contracts are busting because they can no longer afford that house, especially people who bought $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 house. They can't afford that payment anymore. Yeah. I mean, that interest rate's now at 7.5, you know, compared to 3 and 4. I mean, there was no way. So, I mean, we're supposed to be getting another development that's close to where I am in the Denton area. I think the only thing is, I think the media, it's so important for us to be educated about this, because I think they're trying to scare people off from buying because with the interest rates, you know, and I tell people, look, it's more important with how much can you afford on that payment, because down the road, you're probably going to be able to refinance. So don't worry so much about that. But with the builders, you know, you know, you hear, rent, it's safer to rent. It's safer to rent, because with buying, you don't know. And how much money do you really have? And you know, renting, you can stay liquid. I mean, not really. I mean, like my client, I mean, $48,000, you might as well take that money, stick it in your sink and put it on fire. I mean, that's insane. I can understand if someone's moving to the area, they're not sure, you know, about it. They got to move there. I get all that. If you got to rent for a year, I totally get that. But they feel like they're going on, they just want people not to buy anymore and just to rent. So, and some buyers don't think they can buy. That's the funny thing about it. When people will call off, I've had some renters call, and I actually got them with lenders. I'm like, can I ask you, why are you renting? He's like, well, I don't know if I can buy. I'm like, you got to have a down payment and everything. And then we actually go through it. 2 of them can actually buy.
Yeah.
So they're not educated. So I think that it's a scare tactic, and I don't exactly know the whole, you know, behind that. I think it's control, you know, government, you know, in terms of like, you know, with the way the money is, let's come in and, you know, that could lead to a whole nother topic, but
nothing to be happy. That's cool.
Yeah, that could lead to a whole nother thing.
So you're talking about these developments, like what size? Are you talking about like 500-600 homes? Like, are all going to be rentals? How big are these houses? Like, what are we talking about?
The 2 that I know of, there's probably like 400 in one, 2 something in the other. I think the Denton one's going to be smaller than that. So they're not like huge. They're not like communities. Like I haven't seen anything like what I live in, a master plan community. But then I know one that's supposed to be out in Fairview, but the houses are actually more money. They're on bigger lots, and those
Patricia,
are supposed to be rental.
can you explain master plan community? We know what it is, but
Okay. Master plan community is kind of like what I live in. So basically we pay a higher HOA, but we've got like in my development, we have 5 pools, we've got tennis courts, we've got trails. They pay for our basic cable, which nobody uses basic cable, but they pay for basic cable. They mow our front lawn. And we have like groups that, so you can be very into your community. They got things for children and adults and everything. So, but again, higher HOA. It's called a mud. We're in a mud district, so our water's higher and stuff because it's run by the counties and stuff. So there are advantages to living to a master plan community, but if you don't like a stringent HOA, like if you leave your garbage can out, you're getting a note. A lot of people don't like to live. If you would have told me we had lived here, or my husband hated HOA, but here we are. And we bought a second house in here. So, you got to admit to rule, they can, no, what are they called? No pit bulls. They can tell you what kind of dog they can. So it's strict.
It's kind of like a country club without a golf course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we have that too. We have golf course, but it's private. Okay. So it went private 2 years ago. So if you want to play golf, you have to join the country club. But yeah, so there's activities. So it's nice being in a master plan community, especially if people have children, they like the, close-knit community. We do have a lot of that. And like I said, there's chili cook-offs, Easter egg hunts. And we've got some major master plan community. We've got this one. A lot of them are owned almost by the same developer like ours. And they own another one called Wingsong. They built this lagoon. It's white sand and blue. It's a huge lagoon. Believe me, you pay to live out there, but it's nice. It's like,
I also
want to go out there.
I love it. I agree with you, Patricia. I never thought I would live in a master plan community, but there's like 15 parks, 35 miles of trails.
Yeah.
The mountains. Like it's just too easy. Cass is on the other side of the coin. Anybody listening, just so you know, Cass is like in the middle of nowhere.
She's on a farm.
She no civilization. Surprised she has internet to be on this call.
I'm surprised I have friends. Oh my gosh. Just
so
that's why we're here.
Patricia, with that like a third of the homes bought in Texas last year were built by Wall Street. BlackRock now has 80,000 alone, and there's like 300,000 Wall Street purchased homes, and they're holding on to all those, and they are holding them out for rentals. So obviously, you're going to continue to see what I would say is going to be a rent increase in your area. I think that's going to be, they have the corner on it. They're going to keep going. But also looking at other numbers in the Dallas area, I thought it was interesting that the Dallas Fed came out and said they're expecting to see a 15 to 20% decrease in home values in this next year alone. So I was kind of thinking, like, obviously being right there, being in the middle of it, if you were to see a 20%, so first of all, do you think that's possible, 20% decrease in property values? And then if it did happen, what kind of effect would that have on your local economy?
I don't think we're going to see 20%. I mean, the most we ever saw drop was probably like, and it was in outline areas. And that's when I first got into real estate. We saw maybe like 10, 12%. I can't imagine this market dropping like that unless the whole economy took a crap, even with having whatever we are, recession or whatever they call this, we still have higher prices. Yes, they have adjusted and corrected, but I can't see it dropping. If it dropped like that, I think you would have a total panic. I think this housing market would, with all the foreclosures, and I think people would panic, because I think that's when people are like, well, I just need to dump it. Yeah. And then that, of course, takes out a whole community, what I mean?
I can back you up on that, Patricia. So for a little backstory, if anybody remembers what happened in 2008, well, the market crashed, right?
Yes.
So builders stopped building in like 2009, 2010, 2011. On average, they were building somewhere between 750,000 and 1.2 million homes nationally. And they did 1 million homes in 3 years. That's it. And so that put us millions of homes behind. And this was back in 2010. So fast forward to 2020, 2021. The largest group of millennials turned 30 and they want to buy houses. And the millennials are the largest generation
Yes.
and they don't have any money.
Right.
So they're trying to buy houses and they're
Yep.
still going to continue to buy houses. A lot of millennials probably won't buy their first house until they're in their 40s because they can't afford them right now. So
They
you're
can't.
sitting here and you're looking at all of these that's why this market's not going to crash, is the absolute still demand for homes, because they're not building apartments fast enough either. So these people, a lot of them are still living with their parents. I've got two couple friends that live together and they are trying to buy a house together because that is the only way they can afford it.
Well, that was like California. You heard that all the time because of the 80-year mortgage.
Mm-hmm. And you see these articles in like the New York Times and all this stuff saying, oh, it's so cute, these like two couples are buying a house together. And I'm like, yeah, it's because they can't afford anything.
Right.
And so I don't think the 20%, I can see like we've seen the 10% correction here in Portland, but I don't see where you're going to lose 20% overnight in Dallas ever, because they would have to magically go like this and build millions of homes, and they're not going to do that.
And they're not going to do it. And like I said, I think the builders are kind of in that panic anyway. That's why they've given some of it up to these Wall Street companies, because they don't want to be sitting on all this inventory, and the interest rates are houses. Right. And the interest rate will correct, like it always does. I mean, we've been doing real estate a long time. I mean, but that's the problem, is that the buyers want to buy. They can do the payment, but the down payment's the problem. So, and is there down payment assistance? Yeah, there's down payment assistance, but not for what, because a lot of these millennials make a lot of money. So they can't afford, they can't, they don't qualify for down payment assistance, which of course, that's the reason that's like that. So, it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen, because I mean, people still have to move. We have such a transit city here that people are coming and going. We still have companies coming. And as long as the companies are still coming here, we're good. And like I said, with that millennial, I'm with you. I see that my buyers are older, like the ones that I just closed on today. They're in their 30s. They have 3 children, they bought in the sick. They came from Vancouver. So it's kind of like, we're seeing, it seems like some, yes, they do have the cash, but the majority of people, when I talk to them for what they want, they can't afford. So I see why there is renting for that purpose, but we've got to get them. We've got to educate them to try to help them so they can save money, so they can buy a house. And it's basically telling them how much they're wasting. If we use that word of wasting, because that's what it is. You don't own any, you're paying 100% interest rate.
Yeah. And I've had that discussion with multiple of my friends and clients. I had one client, he's moving to California, and he's like, oh yeah, we're just going to move down there for 5 to 7 years. We'll probably just rent and then retire and move back up to Oregon. And I was like, what's your rent? He's like, $4,000. I'm like, do you realize that's like $260,000? I'm like, you're a smarter man than that. I'm like, are you sure you want to just throw $260,000 out the window? I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know the thing is I know he can afford a house.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, why wouldn't you want the appreciation? Because you're it's not going to be negative. You're still going to, I think, even with no matter what's going on in the market, I think you're still going to see that 3 to 4% appreciation annually. Because there's still just so much demand for homes. Like, even though you're only getting 4 showings per house, people are still looking. People are still buying.
They're still buying.
People always have to move. They always have to buy and sell, whether it's because their family's growing, they're downsizing, they get a new job, they lose a job, they get divorced. I mean, real estate's always going to be bought and sold. So it's just a matter of if you are willing to buy it and hang on to it.
That's it. And you can't move every, here people are moving like every 3 or 4. You can't, you're not going to make any money. But I agree with that. So with that appreciation, people are still buying. We still need to educate them. And that's why when you talk about rent, I always say, okay, well, so basically this is costing you $48,000 this year. I always want to say that, not their monthly, but what, so they keep, in 6 months in, okay, are we ready? We're 6 months out. When are we going to start looking?
So do you really think that these new planned communities, I know you said you already took like 14 or 14% increase in rent. Do you think these master plan communities or communities that they're building and buying or bought by institutional investors, do you think that's going to raise the rents even further? Because they're probably not building as much new construction for purchase, are they?
That's the thing. I believe that. I believe that they will charge more, because if somebody wants to live in a nice community and have all, you know what I mean, and have the amenities and be close to everything, they're going to have to pay for that rent. And they know that, because here, if you pay 16, 17, 18, it's not that nice of a house. I mean, and that's kind of, remember our mortgages used to be that. Now people are paying that in rent. But, but like the house I just rented was a newer house. It was built in 2008. We rented it for $2,600 and we got 18 months. And, it's not a big house. It's 1780 square feet.
Yeah.
It's not huge. So, but I believe that if they want to live in these areas, I think that that's why that they're very strategic of how they're doing it and where they're not just going to put them anywhere.
You think that do you think people are going to start renting more to get into certain neighborhoods?
I think so. Yep. If they want, like here in Lantana, rental here, rental on this side, rental over here, they're paying 36 to almost $4,000 to rent to live in this master plan community.
Because the demand for the community itself.
Because the demand for the community.
So I'm sure.
And this house here would be almost 5 something, and they can't afford that.
Where these new communities are that are all rentals, do you think that they're being strategic about where they're buying, right? Because they're not just buying houses anywhere. They're buying
no.
In
because
communities.
the more rent they can charge if it's in a nicer community.
Yeah. So anyways, I'm just blown away by what's going on down in Dallas, and that your numbers are just so all over the place, and it's been so crazy.
It is.
And I thought some of my market was weird.
Oh, it's been an interesting, November and December. It'll be interesting to see what's going to happen January, February, March. We have a lot. This is our relocation time. So it'll be interesting to see. Yeah.
And typically so the other thing people don't know is what is the number, I'll ask you too and see if you know, because I don't know if I've told either one of you this. What is the number one day of the year that people look at real estate online?
The number one day of the year?
Yes. What is the number one, the most views? Like if you were to look at the view count on Zillow and Redfin and all the real estate sites, what is the number one day?
I'm just going to guess. New Year's Day.
No. New Year's Day.
Nope. Day after Christmas, because everybody's with their families and they want to live closer, and they hang out and they're like, oh, this is so much fun. And so
for
then
4 days. For 4 days. Then they're like, that's a bad idea.
New Year's resolution, which I know is Patricia's favorite thing, to buy a house the next year. So that's why you see a huge spike in listings right after the first of the year. And then it's also why you see a huge spike of purchases. And typically in our market, what happens is it's really busy for about the first 3, maybe 4 weeks of the year. And then it dies off from February until spring break, which is usually the end of March. It'll kind of simmer. And then all of a sudden, the week after spring break, it's just to the races. So people that
makes sense.
If you want to start your business and you want to pick up new buyers, the absolute best time to do open houses is the first 3 to 4 weeks of the year.
I agree with that, because people they get that new, let's buy a house this year. Let's stop paying rent. That's the one thing that the news could say, hey, rent's going up. Well, I have somebody that I've got with a lender right now. The rent's going up $1,000. He's got to get out of there. So,
see, that doesn't happen in Oregon because there's rent control.
Yeah, no, we need rent control here. Yeah. So, but that's good for me. But no, I mean, it's like, I feel like you're pushing, it's like, when they go in and they build these McMansions into areas and they push people, they want to get out these small houses, and they, that's the other thing. We got a lot of that legislation trying to come in and, helping, not try to push these people out of their homes and stuff. We got a lot of that going on too. Not everybody wants a 5,000 square foot house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nope.
So
I get that.
Yeah.
So, well, Patricia, I want to say thank you so much for being on our show today, the upper left with myself and Austin. And if anybody out there is looking to move to the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex, as she called it, how do we get in contact with you?
We call, you can either, like I said, you can text me, you can Facebook me. I put all my information up there. But yeah, I'm very easy. But you can find me on social media, on Facebook. Everything's under my Patricia Young Realtor. So everywhere.
Look for pink.
Look for pink.
Pink.
Follow my
Pink and
heels
black. Look for
home.
pink.
Well, you guys, thanks again for tuning into the upper left. Please drop a note in the comments below on kind of if there's any nuggets that you took away from today's show. And if you like this video, please hit like and subscribe, ding the bell, do all the YouTube stuff, because we really don't want you to miss out any more episodes. Austin and I both have a ton of good content coming out. He's got a ton about Seattle, and I've got a bunch about Portland, Vancouver. Speaking of our next episode, our next show will be on December 19th. It'll be at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard, and we will be chatting with our gal Lana Rodriguez from Colorado Springs.
So excited.
I'm super excited too. She has a fabulous team, and we'll be chatting about the growth that's happening in the Springs, because it is very commutable between Denver and the Springs, just so people, if you don't know, and about how large the military base is and what kind of aspects that brings to a real estate market. So anyways, thanks again for tuning in. I'm Cassandra Marks. He's Austin Robertson, and we are the Upper Left Show. Have a great week, you guys.
Talk soon.
Bye.